On the agenda tonight, we're jumping into part one of analysing Luciano Pavarotti performing Nessun Dorma back in 1998. Hello, Phil here from Wings of Pegasus and welcome to another analysis video. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. So, the much requested Luciano Pavarotti, we're going to be taking a look at a couple of performances and we will have the pitch monitoring software up on screen. I'm going to be focusing on the vocal, of course, but more of an isolated vocal. But let's jump into the performances and see how Luciano gets on. I think he's going to do all right.
Nessun dorma, nessun dorma. Tu pure, principessa, nella tua fredda stanza, guardi le stelle che tremano d'amore.
I'm just going to jump in here. As always, if you want to listen to the song that, isn't isolated with the vocal, or just listen to it the whole way through without me interrupting it, I'll put a link in the description below so you guys can check out the performances that we're listening to here. There's so much to point out about one of the most recognized voices there has ever been, but moreover, it's something that even if you're not a fan of classical music, opera, classical singing in general, you've probably heard this, and you've probably heard Luciano singing this. It certainly is a performance that I know well, and a performance overall. I'm not talking about one performance that he did that was amazing. I'm talking about every single time he sang this song, it was just at the same level. And my parents, listen to a lot of Pavarotti, so I know his voice very well. Having said that, I haven't analysed his voice in detail before, so it's going to be interesting to get into this. We're going to take it all the way back to the beginning and see what we can hear.
Nessun dorma, nessun dorma.
So straight off the bat, we've got this octave change in his voice, and I mean really the theme of this video is gonna be about how consistent Pavarotti's voice was tonally from top to bottom. Great example here, we can see that he's sharp of the D4 and then down to the D3 we've got that octave change. So starting up there, I mean, I'm by no means a classical singer at all, but you can hear the body in his sound when he's starting up. No, he's got all of that body in there. No, and then he takes it back down, but he's got the same sound. It isn't thinner up at the top, and this is something that happens all the time, especially with guy singers. As they ascend, they have to thin out their vocal cords and thin out the sound in order to be able to ascend. And this is, as we'll find in this video, why Pavarotti was such an immense vocalist, because of his ability to actually sound like he's doing the opposite. But let's continue. Another thing just quickly to look out for with this vocal line is that vibrato, because Pavarotti always applied vibrato. He does in this. You'll never see a straight line on the pitch monitoring software. Something that we do see in more contemporary music where we've done analysis videos before. You'll see, I mean, with auto-tune it's just dead on the line, but somebody who's got a very straight vocal technique without vibrato, just holding straight notes, would just be a line. A couple of semitones worth of vibrato in terms of that pitch that we're covering, how wide it is, but so consistent. Another common thing that every great singer has in common is when they do vibrato, apply that to their voice, it is even. It's a wave, so that when you listen to it in slow motion, you can hear each peak and trough being hit evenly. But we might do that in a second, just to slow it down, and we'll be able to hear.
Nella tua fredda stanza guardi le stelle.
Let me just take it back to give you an example of that vibrato, which will be you'll start to kind of hear those waves happen. And you can hear how Luciano is going up. He's going above that note. It's something that's going to add drama to the sound, and very much a classical vibrato in the way that it's got its own personality, with lots of opera singers and great singers, classically trained singers, who have this vibrato always above the note, rather than going na and going down, up, which is quite subtle, going above the note, going up. All of a sudden, something's happened now where it's so much more dramatic. I don't know how to explain this. I guess as you go higher up, just with music in general, you tend to start down low, and then the crescendo of the song is always at a high point, pitch-wise as well, for the vocalist. And when I say crescendo, I mean the loudest part. Generally, the end of the song will have all of the instruments going, just, foot to the floor, and the vocalist is really leaning into chest voice. You get your crescendo. And that last note is never a really low note. Nobody builds up to a low note to finish with. So that high note, we are programmed to see as more dramatic, or we feel it as more dramatic. So if you have a vibrato that is actually going up in pitch rather than going down in pitch, it's going to come across as more dramatic than just that one that's going below. Hopefully that makes sense, but it's trying to explain how we interpret pitch with our brains and our ears, and it's all subjective, but I think pretty much everyone computes this the same way. As soon as there's a vibrato that is going sharp, it takes you back a little bit because it's more dramatic and it registers as that. I just want to pick up on a point that I made a minute ago about how guys, as they ascend, generally will thin out the voice to allow them to get higher with their voices. Have a listen to this. So we've got this F sharp 4 that comes in, and we are slightly sharp of that, but as I come back here, we can see that we are in and around the F sharp 3 and the G sharp 3 and the G3. Now, when I'm talking about these pitches, you'll notice how Pavarotti is always a little bit sharp, and if you were to take the middle point of his vibrato, it would be sharp. There is an argument here to make for the orchestra, the performance being tuned to maybe 438 hertz, maybe 436, because when you are tuned to a lower frequency, and that's when your A4 is tuned to, this is 440 hertz. So the A4 on a piano would be at 440 hertz, and that's what's actually being plotted out, these lines that we can see on screen. I don't want to get into it in too much detail, but when you tune to a lower frequency, say for example 438, then the notes will appear slightly higher than if you're looking at 440 hertz. So this is why I think there's an argument to say that Pavarotti would be more accurate. I think he's always going to be sharp, because that's very much the classical approach to singing, and vibrato, just going above the note more than you go below the note. But here it's pretty much always just a bit sharp. He's so consistent with his pitch. But back to the point that I was making, this is going to be a problem with this analysis because there are so many things that I'm probably going to get sidetracked with. But have a listen to this. So there we have this rise up from the F sharp 3, the G sharp 3, and we go up here to the F sharp 4, and we are going an octave higher. But listen to Pavarotti's voice, the richness of the tone. I'll take it back a bit further. It's almost as if when he ascends from here going he gets more tone and it sounds like more connection as he ascends. He's not going and trying to pick out that note in head voice because it's higher. He's adding more body to the sound, and this is why it's so impressive, because it's the opposite of how a lot of people sing, and it takes a hell of a lot of training. Obviously, Luciano was singing his whole life, and this is why he has this standalone voice and quality of tone, because this is a lifetime of practicing and perfecting his vocal technique to be able to take his tone up high into the male tenor range with all of these, you know, the G sharp 4, for example, and the A sharp 4, and then going up to the C5. These are all notes that a lot of guys hit in the kind of voice I just did, going in a head voice, a really light sound, maybe even falsetto. When you're talking about a true male tenor, they are hitting these notes in chest voice. So all of that, that body of the sound is being taken up to all of those really light places. But just hitting a note in head voice or in falsetto doesn't make you a tenor. You have to be able to hit them in chest voice with a full-bodied sound, and it's part of your usable range in that chest voice, in that chest register. We'll jump back into it. I just want to jump in quickly. I mean, great example here of his vibrato, that consistency. But when he descends, he's almost got his vibrato going the whole time. So rather than coming down here, and we can see how, just on the pitch monitoring software, we do get these little notches where the increase in pitch of his vibrato is hitting the notes as he descends. So what I want to do is take it back. Have a listen. It's this, because we've got this, so the vibrato's happening as he descends, but the top of the vibrato is just catching these notes as we go down. Let's see what that sounds like if we slow it down, because you might be able to hear that more of a slow descension rather than going and actually hitting the semitones. He's not doing that. Let's have a listen. It's that quick, even in slow motion. It's a subtle detail to point out, but it sounds like he's doing vocal runs sometimes, but it's just that vibrato being really accurate, literally to the semitone. We're going to be calling things to a close now for part 1 of this analysis video. Make sure you look out for part 2, which will be released on Wednesday night. It's probably going to be best for you to subscribe and hit that notification bell so that you get notified for that one. As always, thank you for requesting this video for me to take a look at. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Keep those suggestions and requests coming. And if you did enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. And I'll see you guys at the next one. Rock!